everyone, welcome to Nom Talk review, Nom Watch review, part of the Nom Talk network. On this show, we review the latest film drop or a throwback celebrating a milestone while eating and drinking our favorite movie snacks. It's very cold tonight, so you'll have to bear with me and my internet again. I apologize. So we want to welcome you tonight. We're going to be discussing one of our throwback movies. Don't forget that we have merch. It's very exciting. I have some, and I will be taking pictures and sharing them as soon as it's not 25 degrees out. You can find a link to that in our About section, or you can drop exclamation point merch in the chat and it will give you a link there. Our subscribers to our Twitch channel get a discount, so don't forget that. That's very cool. I am your host, Jennifer, and right now I am enjoying a hard root beer by Ashwood because I shop at Aldi and I love their off-brand stuff because I'm a cheap gal. And I am enjoying the rest of a leftover bean and cheese burrito because it's snowing, so I'm stuck. So we're doing with what we have here at home. My guests tonight are Katie's joining us for the first time. You guys might know her from the chat, so we're excited to have her here. And we have Rachel and, of course, Eric. And Eric can't do anything to us in the chat tonight because he's here to do it to us in person. It's very exciting. So you guys
don't put that
Eric
past
tonight
me.
for us.
I can still do it.
That's true. But I can't see the chat tonight because of my bandwidth. So Eric will hopefully be helping us with the chat tonight. Eric, what are you eating and drinking tonight?
I decided I'm going with my what's called Voodoo Ranger Cashmerized IPA because I'm obsessed with this. Because I have really bad heartburn, water, hydration is key. And then I decided to get pizza and salad. So like it's really enjoyable. I'm actually really enjoying it.
Awesome. Rachel, how about you?
So I'm enjoying a blackberry LaCroix or LaCroix, depending on where you're from. And I'm actually in kind of a special diet where I'm only drinking shakes for food. It's very boring, and I had all my shakes already today, so
that's
just I'll eat this.
How about you, Katie?
I'm having a tequila seltzer, and then my movie snack. I'm kind of obsessed with the 7 Sundays cereal. I just love munching on it. It's delicious.
Nice. Oh, is that what we had at that event? No, that was 3 Wishes.
Mm-hmm. Very similar, though, in the sense that it has less than 10 ingredients, so it's all part of the same healthy cereal movement.
Nice.
Yes. Awesome. Well, this is all sounding delicious and giving me snacking ideas for afterwards because, to be honest, the leftover burritos not really cutting it. But well, welcome, guys. I'm glad to have all of you here with me tonight. Before we get started, just a reminder, we are still fundraising for the Trevor Project with our goal of $200. And tonight, on to the film we are discussing, which is 2004's Ella Enchanted. This movie is a movie I have very fond memories of. I had 2 small children, and this movie was a wonderful escape for me. As soon as it hit DVD, I was like, yes. I love Cinderella stories. I love Cinderella, all versions of the movie. This is one of my favorite, and as you're going to learn real quick, I am very generous about this movie. So let's talk popcorn bucket ratings. Katie, as the newbie, let's have your popcorn rating for this one.
2.5 buckets for me.
Okay. What do you give this one 2.5 buckets for?
Well, I love that it is a fantasy film. I love fantasy. There were just way too many cringy moments for me for to go above 2.5 buckets. The musical moments just were a little much for me. And we'll discuss a lot more, but
Fair.
there was the uncle's, I think he was wearing a wig, and that was something. That was something.
Katie and I cosplay together, and Katie and I have had many discussions about men's costume wigs, so I'm sure that'll come into it as well. Eric, how many popcorns did you give this movie?
I decided to give it a 2. Not that I didn't enjoy it, because it is a fun, whimsical fantasy film. It is that. And Anne Hathaway played a great heroine, but I just felt it was too gimmicky, plus cringy moments, like Katie was saying, and for the fact that, and I was told to say this for my roommates, they've read the book,
Okay.
and so like it's completely different. Plus, also her best friend Arita, how they treated her, and she was only in like 5 seconds of the film. The only brown
Right.
character kind of gave me pause and issue. So before, when I watched it, I would have given it like a 4 or 5. Now, as an older adult, going back, definitely a 2.
That's all fair. Yes. I've never read the book, so I do have that in my not favor. Rachel, what was your rating?
I went with a 3. I was kind of on the fence between a 3 and a 3.5, but I think the 0.5 was more for nostalgia purposes, so we're gonna go with the 3. I would agree with what both of them said about a little silly. It is, I feel like, a kid's movie, and so you have to sort of look at it from those goggles. It has some great characters and cast, but I don't know, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did when I first saw it.
Well, I gave it 4 popcorn buckets. Like I said, my kids were little when this movie came out, and when they were asleep, I could put it on and escape, but I could also leave it on when they were awake and not really worry about them seeing anything awful for them. I watched it today while I was working because I was the only person in my department in the office because of a power outage at my house, and it was just fun to have it on. There's a lot of nostalgia in it for me. I love all the cheesy stuff. I love the musical parts. I always forget, Katie, that you're not a musical gal like I am. I don't know why I always think you are for some reason. Probably because of where you used to work. So,
Yeah.
I have this block in my head that you should love goals like I do. But for me, those were the things I loved about it, is the cheesiness. But no, so let's talk about that. This movie has a big cast, right? There's a lot of people in it. There's some great cameos in it. It takes a lot of things that are not just the Cinderella story. There's a lot going on in it that is definitely something that takes away from it, I think, in a lot of ways. But it's a lot of fun. I'm sorry, Charlie just came out and is like being very loving. Not right now. You're drooling on me. It's gross. But yeah, it's Ella, and it starts out with her as a baby. It's narrated by the amazing Erric, and he is a treasure, and he rhymes the whole time. I did have it in my head that I was going to do the whole intro as a rhyme, and then I came back to reality, and I know my limits. So it starts with him narrating it, and Ella is a baby. And as with the Cinderella story, her mom is dying. This shouldn't be a spoiler. Cinderella's story is like hundreds of years old. She has a house fairy played by Minnie Driver, who's amazing, and her fairy godmother, played by Vivica A. Fox, shows up, Lucinda, and grants her a gift. But Lucinda's not very good at giving gifts, and she gives her the gift of obedience. If we were giving this gift a popcorn bucket rating, how many popcorn buckets would you give it, Rachel? Just the gift.
0.
What do you
That's a
think of the
horrible
gift?
gift.
It is. It is. Lucinda doesn't think so. Katie, when she gave her that gift and everybody was horrified, but Lucinda thought this was the greatest thing she was doing. Was that one of your cringy moments?
Yeah, because I think about, I mean, there are various moments in this movie where I go, would this have been okay in 2024? And like giving the gift of no consent was, I was like, oh, I know it's like really intense sounding, but like feel like go do this, go do that. And I know that probably would not fly today in a movie. And I definitely cringe.
Yeah. Eric, the gift.
Oh yeah, no, same thing of like the non-consent thing, and just to see that even though this movie is just 20 years old, how different these 2 decades have changed our thoughts on everything. But yeah, no, 0 out of
Oh, yeah.
0 buckets for that gift.
Yeah. It's a terrible gift. But she was a great Lucinda, and throughout the whole, she carries the whole thread. We see her a couple times in the movie. She's really funny. She's so confident in her gift being so great. We meet Cinderella's father, played by Patrick Bergin, who was a pretty big star. Like in the '90s, he did a lot of, probably usually played like
a terrorist or something, from what I can remember him in. Lucy Punch, when we meet his wife, his new wife, and her two daughters, Olive and I'm blanking on the blonde one's name. Well, they're both
Hattie.
blonde.
Hattie?
But Hattie, yes. I'm only thinking of Drusilla, but or Druselda. So Lucy Punch, who plays Hattie, has played 4 stepsisters in 4 different versions of Cinderella, including my favorite version of Cinderella, which is the live action Disney version. But it's her go-to role, I guess. She's great in the role. She's funny. She's a great British actress. She's also in my favorite Edgar Wright movie, Hot Fuzz. So, she's a delight. I don't know quite why they made Olive the sister the way they did. Just not really all together there. But they did definitely make some choices with this movie. You guys are going to have me changing my rating by the end of the stream. I feel it. So, as we know now, Ella cannot say no if you tell her to do something. You have to specifically tell her to do something, and she's not allowed to. They don't tell anyone that she has this gift that was given to her. But people start to figure it out as she gets older, and people catch on and use it to their advantage. That's interesting what you brought up about the book, Eric, because I guess I haven't read the book and I didn't know that. An interesting point about her friend. And yeah, now that you mentioned it, that the movie's very white. And they did treat her poorly. They even make comments about like where she's from and you should go back there. Even when she's very little, the kids are teasing her on the playground. But Ella comes to her defense, and that's how they become friends. So, she grows up with this affliction. It's not really a gift. Aside from the problems in the actual story, the cast itself is fairly strong. The stepmother is played by Joanna Lumley, who is another really famous British actress. And I think that was a really great, strong casting. If you look at all the different stepmothers, like throughout the different Cinderella stories we've had, they always seem to do such a great job casting her. What do you think of the stepmother and sisters in this particular version, Eric? Do you think they were a strong casting, even though I feel like they were a tad bit underused? They could have been a little more present.
Oh yeah, no, the casting on this. Anytime you cast Joanna Lumley in anything, you're gonna get your money's worth from her because it's Joanna Lumley, like perfect. As you said, Lucy Punch has been in 4 of these, so this is her career path. I think she'll play this forever until she transitions into an older age and just starts playing the wicked stepmother.
Yeah.
But no, this cast, I think they worked well together. They were funny. They had their moments and everything like that. Like you couldn't have asked for anyone better at the time for this.
Yeah, I like
Even
Lucy
though-
Punch in pretty much everything I've seen her in. She steals a little bit. Definitely takes the spotlight away from Olive, who's sort of like, okay, Olive. I honestly could not tell you, like, stepmother wise, like who has done a better job as an evil stepmother. I mean, we've had some of the best. We've had like Kate Blanchett, and we've had Angelica Houston, and I'm trying to think of other live actions. I don't remember who the old ones were. I'm sure they were great. The stepmother's always.
Into the Woods was Christine Baranski. She was good.
Yes. It's like another perfect
with Lucy Punch.
Yes.
Yeah, she is going to have to transition to play the stepmother pretty soon. That's the thing.
I love that.
I think another, I think the one of the things that did suffer as far as storyline though, because she's the villain, right? We're used to her being the villain, the stepmother and the sisters, and to make Char's uncle the villain kind of in this took that away from the story, took some of their power or their villainy away. But
True.
I mean, it still kind of worked. It took some getting used to.
I would say though, so like there are certain characters in movie history that really get under your skin, like Hans Landa from Inglourious Basterds. You hate him. I hated Hattie. Like she was getting under my skin. Like I hated her more than I hated Marguerite in Ever After.
Wow.
Because she was like truly, I was like, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the bad 2000s fashion on top of that, like, but. And she was like, there's a fan club element, so there's like an obsession even more. But Like
I
I was getting a reaction like I was getting from Inglorious Bastards, and they aren't the same person at all. But I was getting angry
She
watching her.
played the perfect high school mean girl set in a fantasy
Yes.
realm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially it was how quickly she picked up on how Ella couldn't say no. And then she was like, okay.
I do
Yes.
wonder.
But yeah, the fangirl and the fan club thing.
I keep wondering if like she
What was that?
picked up so quickly on that is because people tell her no a lot, or like she like gets what she wants a lot, but then Ella did say no at first and then she asks again and then she got it. I don't know how she picked up on that so quick, but I was kind of trying to figure that out. I'm like, why are you being so perceptive right now when you're so dumb about everything else?
It's true.
Well, she's not Olive. Like Olive would still be trying to figure it out. So
That's true.
there is that. The scene at the mall where the mall that was particularly cheesy. So they get her in trouble at school, they get her in trouble at it's a opening or a dedication of a statue at the mall where this handsome prince, who Hattie is the president of his fan club, and his evil conniving uncle, played by the scenery chewing Carrie Elwes, in a delightfully telegraphing red and black outfit, that if you can't figure out this man is the villain by that, then like Katie pointed out earlier, his wig tells you the rest of the story. Oh, and his talking snake. That's not a metaphor for anything. He actually has a talking digitally rendered snake, who I think is played by Steve Coogan.
Yes.
Because I couldn't figure out who else he played in there when I saw his name in the credits. So by process of elimination, he played the snake. I just thought it was funny. I just enjoyed this. I just enjoyed all of it. Like I said, it was cheesy, but I think like when the movie came out, and then also today, because some of my work gets really heavy, some of the work I have to do, and sometimes it gets boring too because I'm an investigator. So it was fun to have that playing while I was doing some of the work I had to do today. No, it was very obvious when this guy comes out the way he was dressed. You're like, villain. Okay. So Ella gets in a lot of trouble at the mall because they make her shoplift, because Hattie's like, I'm going to use this. And she does go like right into mean girl territory with it. And I've now forgotten the friend's name too, so forgive me. Her friend, who we see
Arita.
for 3 minutes in the whole movie. What was it?
Arita.
That's right. And then Hattie tells her, you're gonna tell her, I never want to see you again. I don't like you. I don't like people from where you're from. Just all these mean things, and you can tell that Ella's obviously heartbroken having to say these things to her, and sending her away. But she's powerless against this lovely gift that she's been given.
I want to just interject something just occurred to me and I don't want to forget to say it. But like I feel like her mother did her a little bit of a disservice by telling her not to tell anybody about the curse gift, whatever, because like she could have easily, her friend could have known after being besties for so long that she was probably told to say this, and like it could have gotten her out of a couple situations. Her mom was like so convinced that if she ever told anybody, it would be used against her. But it was the people who like then found out, and those are the people used against her. Like she didn't have anybody on her side who like knew how to help her.
Why did
I
her
agree.
dad know? Her dad should have known.
I do have to say though, like in that, like the mom did do her a disservice, and by being like, you are not to tell anybody ever. But also, this movie is full of like freedom for the ogres and the giants and women empowerment and everything like that. And I get it, there wouldn't have been a movie if they would have been like, you don't have to listen to anybody.
True. That
but
is true.
Like everything else in this movie is just like empowerment and everything. And the movie, I think, did a disservice to itself and its plot.
It could have been solved if they had given like a really cool reason why. Like it would have strengthened the curse or the gift, as they call it. It was just like, don't tell anyone.
Yeah. If there had been a consequence to telling someone, aside from they might use it against you.
instead of just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you know, but like a real consequence. And then Minnie Driver, you know, just disappearing. And how did she turn her boyfriend into a book? You know, Benny was cool. Was it Benny? Yeah. See, that's the thing. There's too many people in this movie. I can't remember all their names. And then I remember looking over at one point and going, "Is that Heidi Klum?" Okay, that you know,
Yes.
like Ella is, she's in trouble at the mall. They get, you know, back to the house, and we meet the prince, handsome Prince Charmant, because they were real original with the names in this one. So Prince Char, Hugh Dancy, who my first thought was it's Will Graham, because I was obsessed with Hannibal for a while. So,
Yeah.
I was like, hey, and that might mean what kind of want to watch Hannibal, but I was like, nope, got to finish this first. So I think this might have been one of the first things I saw him in, and I remember I go, this guy's kind of cute. And then I saw him in Hannibal, and I was like, whoa, buddy. So is, you know, he can definitely act. He's got quite a varied acting range. He's kind of perfect for this. He's kind of, you know, he's cute. He's very affable. He did a fine job, but it's not a challenging role, right? It's not like rewriting the instruction manual. He did a great job. It wasn't a hard movie, but you know, he can't sing. I did learn that because he tried. The music in this movie, it's been brought up a couple times, the musical number. So they use very anachronistic music. It worked great in Moulin Rouge. I didn't mind it in this, but it was definitely a choice, you know. I like the songs they used, which is probably why it didn't bother me too much. But Eric?
They were supposed to use like classic fairy tale songs, and Anne Hathaway refused. That's why we got the songs that we got.
Why did
I'm
she
wondering why.
refuse? What's wrong with
Because
classic?
she just didn't feel like they set the movie tone and everything like that, so they updated it to like Somebody to Love and everything like that.
What are some classic fairy tale songs? I'm totally blanking. Like,
I have no idea, but they found them.
oh, I mean, I love me some Queen.
Okay,
I
well,
can rock that for karaoke myself. So, and probably because I
yeah,
watched this movie, you know, it's a fun song.
exactly. And don't go breaking my heart. I mean, that was fun at the end, but maybe she just watched Moulin Rouge too much as a child. So, well, not much too much of a child, but that's an interesting note on that. You know, though, after having seen it so many times the way it is, I don't know if I can picture it with like traditional music.
Right?
I don't know if it would work because it kind of lends to her whole being told what to do and having no say in the matter. I don't know. So there's just a whole motley crew of characters in this that aren't in the traditional Cinderella story, which I guess they're just different kinds of characters, right? Because in the traditional Cinderella, you have mice, you have birds, you have all the woodland creatures that come to help her and then get magicked into people that help her. And in this, we have ogres, we have giants, we have elves that are supposed to be entertainers. Everybody has a role and a place in the kingdom, except this evil uncle is now trying to take over and exploit everybody, right? So this movie tries to have like political message, but like you said, Eric, it sort of shoots itself in the foot in a way by ruining its own message. So the fan club of Char doesn't give two craps about anything going on that anyone's being oppressed. The only two people who seem to care are Ella and her friend. Hattie only cares. That's why Hattie gets mad at her and gets her in trouble at the mall, is because they ruin their chances of their fan club meeting with Char. It does follow some of the traditional Cinderella things, like with the coronation ball, but it also goes off where Ella has to go on this journey to find her fairy godmother to try and get this gift taken away from her. How do you even like say that? Thank you so much for this gift, but please, dear God, take it away from me, right? So what did you
Easy.
think
It's
about
called
her quest?
regifting. I said easy. It's called regifting.
Well, it's true. Too bad there wasn't some, like way you could. I mean, obviously they had I don't even know what kind of trope you would, or not trope. That's not the right word. Like what kind of loophole they used to get her out of it at the end. That was just like, oh, it was that easy. But Katie, what did you think about her little journey through the wood to find her fairy godmother and all the little creatures she encountered along the way?
Before we got to the giant bar nightclub.
Yeah. Well, that was a wedding. That was a giant wedding.
That was a wedding. It gave nightclub vibes to me. It was interesting because as I was going through, I was also making notes of like, okay, what other references are they making throughout this movie? Obviously with Cinderella as the core, but was I right in seeing some Robin Hood Men in Tights references in that scene? I feel because I haven't seen
Probably
that one.
because of Fairy being in the
Yeah. I
I would
thought
say
that
so.
was one of the more enjoyable scenes. I thought it was really quirky. It was a very interesting scene. All the scenes, like especially when they got to how would you describe the execution style they were doing on the elf? He was on the wheel of death. What was that? That was I feel like that's used a lot
Oh,
in that era of
the Wheel
movies.
of Death. That's it. Where they were knife throwing at him.
Yeah. It also reminds
Seems
me
like
of
a very
Adam's
random
Family.
type of execution.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think they were more torturing him. I don't think that was a very like tried and true way of executing someone. That seemed more like playing with your food. Not necessarily
Yeah.
food, but just being bullies more than anything.
I will say, and I don't know, as I was going through this film, because we hadn't met the elves yet, I was actually very happy to see the elves and how they were portrayed because it could have been really bad
True.
if you catch my drift. So
Could
that's
have.
along the short of how I feel about that.
The long and
The
the
short
short
of
of it.
Katie.
You know,
No.
that's not what I meant, but that's just that's an unfortunate pun.
There we go. See, you got your punny. So
There you
There you
go.
go. Yeah, I was just like, oh, she's getting every fairy tale creature out of the way here in the woods. And they're all very stereotypical. You know, the giants were, I didn't know giants were agrarian like that. I guess with the beanstalks, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, we had the trolls, the giants, the bullies that
Oh,
were beating up the poor fairy. Yeah.
before I forget, this is really what I wanted to say. I mean, the movie in general, but this whole scene where we're really meeting the montage of characters, it made me realize that 2004 CG is sometimes better than it is now. Like, obviously, there were some green screen things. It was like, yes, it's obviously green screen, but there was something really special about this. I'm like, you know what? I miss this. We need
Yep.
more of this.
Yeah, the giant wedding had a lot of that with all the different. I mean, even Heidi Klum when she's cradling the elf, I was like, oh look, that
Oh, at
I
the
believe it, I
end,
buy it. But yeah, the snake was really well done. Even his like human
yes.
facial features. But no, I thought he was really well done. Yeah, the giant wedding was where she went to look for Lucinda because the book Benny, which was still the book freaks me out still a little. Like how he can only show you pictures, but he can't give you any actual like helpful information. I'm like, well, this is the weirdest plot device ever.
but even in that,
Again,
later he brings up a map for her and it like dots her location on how to get there and everything like that. I'm like, you could do
Right.
that. But you
So
can't
he
give any
actually
information.
could.
I will say that book, again, another thing that was really well done in terms of CG, like surprisingly well done
Yeah.
for
Maybe it
2004.
wasn't. Maybe it was practical.
They stuffed them
Oh,
in
so it
there.
had been somehow CG'd. Yeah. I mean, Jimmy Mystery, he's a great actor too. So, you know, he did a great
Yeah.
job being a book for 90%, 95% of the movie. Rachel, what was your thoughts on her grand quest to the not dragons? There were no dragons in this actually.
There's
The one
not.
thing that wasn't in here. The Giant's wedding.
You know, I really like her journey. That's probably one of my favorite parts of the whole movie is like meeting all these characters. And I like the giant's wedding mostly because again, I like that Queen song. And you know, she gets to
Same.
have her moment with Hugh Dancy. And he gets to kind of see, you know, other like the perspective of other types of people. Or creatures, I don't know what to call them. And like I don't know, I the one thing I never really got behind was like how is he so clueless with like everything? I know that like they said his like parents were killed or something by isn't that what I can't remember. Um, uh, his
mom
parents were
died
killed or
and he
something.
was a little, and then his dad was supposedly torn apart by ogres or giants,
Yeah.
but really his uncle had him killed.
Right. The uncle was like all behind it. And so he was like
Uh-huh.
seeing, you know, the humanity in them, and that like he had been misinformed, I guess, because he had never met a giant or an ogre or an elf. And so yeah, so I like that part of the movie. It's sweet and it's nice, and it sort of is a different feel. It doesn't feel like Cinderella. You don't have that ball and stuff. Like, it's not the beginning of Cinderella, it's not the end of Cinderella. It's like its own thing.
Yeah.
It gave Shrek vibes too.
What?
It kind of gave Shrek vibe.
Yes, I like that. I like
Little-
that comparison. I agree.
Also, did anyone else get the Godfather feeling off the giant at the wedding? Like, you've come here on the day of my daughter's wedding, and then they sit down and they have to. He didn't say that exactly, but like just the tone and the way he spoke, and then he sat down with Char, who, and it bothers me to say that because then I'm like, it's not Clueless. Why are they calling? You know, but he just, the way he talked, I was like, is this a Godfather reference that we're having here? So I think there were little things snuck in there like that too, because that made me kind of turn and look at my phone like, wait, what? They probably just told him like, just go with it. It's a wedding, you know, like, but it was, that one made me laugh a little. I was like, see what you did there. So yeah, so they had their, you know, they had their grand adventure, and then they're going to go back, and the scenery in this movie is almost its own character. It was filmed in Ireland. But yeah, it was filmed in Ireland, so all of that beautiful scenery is definitely not CG. It's just Ireland being beautiful. So, you know, it's time to go back, and now we kind of get into the coronation ball, which is a traditional Cinderella element. And the stepsisters and the stepmother are going to go, and of course Hattie is like, this is my chance. The whole fan club's going to go, which is just such a weird thing to me still. It's so funny, but I think it's because I see fangirls and fanboys up close and personal on the regular. So I'm just like, yeah, I know your type. They're all there in the kingdom, Lumeria, or something like Lumeria, except I was listening to a podcast talking about Lumeria. And then, of course, you know, Winter Soldier, Lumeria, Star. My whole brain was just converging with all of the things today. And you know, they go there for the coronation, and she didn't at least have to clean fireplaces or anything. She just kind of got to go until it was ruined for her, of course, while she's looking in the census to try and find her fairy godmother, because she still has her horrible gift. And they take the fan club on a tour of the castle. Like, this can go nowhere good, right? I was just like, why are you guys doing this? You're taking like the foxes into the chicken coop here. It was, but that scene was pretty funny when they're like, we're gonna see where he showers, you know, and then they're all kissing the floor. That line was great, where the tour guide was like, stop tugging the carpet. I was like, what's happening? This is a kids movie. So the traditional coronation elements, you know, but then we have the again, the turncoat uncle, who is just determined to take the kingdom for himself just through murder, because he's a terrible man with a terrible wig. And he hatches this grand plan involving way more people than he needs to, because as we know, when you involve too many people, your plan fails. What do you guys think of Cary Elwes as the villainous uncle in this movie? Was he too over the top? Did he chew just the right amount of scenery? What do you think, Eric?
Before I answer this question, I do want to jump in the chat because Nom Talk did redeem hydrate. So everybody, cheers, hydration.
Cheers.
And then we have a lot of people chit-chatting about the movie, about how Hattie is a professional evil stepsister.
She is.
And she figured out that she had powers, kind of, at the start when she told her to hold her tongue, and she actually held it. Cue Ball was late. He says he's sorry, but so was Tinspiration, who also says they're sorry. But Tinspiration also says his sister Rachel and him were both like, I'm going to read this book again because this is making me mad. But question again was the coronation, or Cary Elwes. I actually really liked seen him in this role because we've obviously seen him in Princess Bride, where he was this brave thing and the pirate and everything. But this one, he really did chew up that scenery. He overtook the scenes that he was in, and it was just lovely to see him doing this. We've seen him now do like Stranger Things and everything like that, where he's the bad guy. But this was the first instance where I was like, okay, this is your niche. Like you can definitely do this, and I loved every minute of him.
What about Twister, man? Twister, he's a good bad guy too.
I forgot about that.
I just think he's a great bad guy. Like, I love Princess Bride. Who doesn't like Princess Bride? But like, I can't see him as Wesley anymore. He's always the bad guy. I see Carrie Ellis isn't gonna be in a movie. I'm like, bad guy. He's gonna be the bad guy.
Oh yeah, he was just a bad guy in Mission Impossible. They just needed to give him a mustache to twirl in this one.
Yes, he's
That's all
actually
he
going to be
was missing.
in this new movie coming out, the Ungentlemanly Combat something.
With Henry
like
Cavill, right?
yes, Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
And I think he's finally not
Ooh.
going to be a bad guy. It kind of looks like he's sort of like the Q to Bond, but to like Henry Cavill's version.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll use my stubs for that, my A-list.
Yes.
Oh, intriguing.
Has a great
Awesome.
trailer.
Yeah, no,
That's all I can say.
I haven't seen the trailer yet. I'll have to find that one. Cool. I'll have to check that one out. Katie, what did you think of his villain in this?
You know, when he first came on screen for me, I was like, what's that? So, oh, by the way, this was the first time I ever watched it. Like this week,
Oh, okay.
first time ever. So everything is very fresh. I was like, who? It was one of those things where it's like, I know you. Who are you? And it didn't take, it took me a little bit to be like, oh, it's Carrie. Like, seeing him as a brunette and then seeing like the wig a little bit. But then I was like, you know, it is cringy, but he's supposed to be cringy. I'm like, you're a parody of like, he almost gave the vibes of what's his name in Robin Hood, the king in Robin Hood. Like that's I'm like, he's trying to be that.
Yeah.
So, but
Prince John?
John, right? It's
John.
King John?
King John, Prince John.
Prince? Yeah.
The prince, yeah. Because then I was like, oh, the snake and everything. I'm like, right, this all makes sense. But I did love him in that role because he was just so over the top. Like when you've hit that level of over the top, you're not cringy anymore. You're just a parody. And I also, maybe it's because I don't think he can do any wrong. I grew up watching him as a John Pirate Roberts, and so, you know, like whatever you want to do. But also just such an evil guy, such an evil little bastard. So insecure. So insecure.
And we know he can do parody. He did it for the best when he did Robin Hood Men in Tights for Mel Brooks. So, you know, we know he can hold his chops there. So, I know. I think the one thing too that another thing that bugs me, where you know you're not supposed to, back to Ella, she's not supposed to tell anyone about this gift, but she telegraphs it every time someone tells her to do something because she goes like this.
Yes.
So it's like that's a big tell. Like that just clicked with me. I'm like, wait, you're not supposed to tell anybody about it, but if somebody says go do this, you like pop your chest out. Like,
can they hear the chimes too?
Yeah, true.
Oh, yeah, there's chimes. Maybe she only hears them though, because you didn't see anyone looking around like, what was that noise? Internal chimes. That would drive me nuts. So we see that the king, or the uncle has a plan. He wants to be the king. At the coronation ball, he's figured out or found out that Ella has to do everything she's told. So he gives her a dagger and tells her that she is to stab Prince Char, the love of her life. She thinks, maybe. She really likes him, at least. These two are pretty wishy-washy, but they think they love each other. So much so that Char's going to propose at midnight in the Hall of Mirrors, where his dad proposed to his mom. And that's the perfect time the uncle thinks for her to bury a knife in his back. How romantic. So he gives her the dagger, which is a beautiful, beautiful dagger, by the way. Lovely. And he tells her she has to do this at midnight. She's now devastated because she doesn't want to do it, obviously, but she knows she has to. She has no choice. So she gets her elf lawyer to chain her to a tree with a heavy chain and a thick lock, and she disappears from the coronation. The uncle has gotten this information from Hattie with the promise Char will marry her once he is king, because she doesn't understand what a double cross is, and that Char is not going to live to be king. So we've got Ella chained to a tree, and magically, in the coincidence of all coincidences, because that can only happen in a fairy tale, her drunken fairy godmother Lucinda lands in the field next to her. Now, I want to say, for a movie that had such a great cast, maybe they could have had maybe one less B-level actor and spent a little more on the fairy godparents' costumes, because the material they used on these things came from like Dollar Tree or something. I
Yeah.
was like, what is this? Because overall the costumes were really well done, except the fairy godmothers got like, I don't even know what that was made of.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
what were you going to say about the fairy costume? Because the other fairy they talked to had the same material. I was like, did you guys forget the fairies needed costumes?
They got them from Spirit, Halloween store. And
Eric, your face.
No,
What are you
I
going to
agree.
say?
No, I agree with you. They got them from Spirit. They're like those like Lake Avenue things. I do want to jump in the chat really quick. Nom Talk says the movie that you were talking about, Rachel, is The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Welfare. That's what it's called. I can't say it, but and then
Said that? Who gave us the answer?
Nom Talk.
Ah.
And then Cue Ball says he has seen the movie. It's a good, okay movie, but I think Anne Hathaway was the only one that really shines in the movie. She is so good at playing characters very relatable, which I agree with. And then Timspiration says, haha, but personally, I just think this movie is objectively a mess. And that's without nothing that doesn't follow the book almost at all. It's like somebody read one or maybe two sentences of a synopsis and then wrote the screenplay. But
see, and you can have a movie that doesn't follow the book, like Prestige, right? The movie and the book, because I've read that they're wildly different. But it worked really well, because the Prestige book would not have worked if they made a movie directly from the book. It wouldn't have worked at all because the way the book was written. But in this case, now I have to read the book, and I have a feeling my popcorn book rating is going to plummet, and the nostalgia will fall away from it. Especially because you can't put a unicorn on the poster, and the unicorn's literally in the first 5 seconds of the movie, and then you never see it again. That's rude. But yeah, can't promise me unicorns and then take them away like that. The fairy godmother comes. She doesn't understand why she would want this gift taken away, so she refuses to do it. And then she looks at Ella and how she's dressed and realizes there's no way this girl can go to the ball like that. So she uses her magic to free her from the tree that she's chained to. There, you're so welcome, Ella. And then she puts a beautiful ball gown on her, does her hair all fancy with her magic. So, doesn't understand why she's not super duper grateful about it, and flies off. So now she's signed the prince's death warrant, basically, flies off in her little ugly fairy dress that is made of the worst material ever. And Ella is devastated because now she knows she's going to have no way to stop herself from killing the love of her life. Sure enough, she ends up in the castle. He's so excited to see her, even though she wrote him this letter saying, I never want to see you again, because, late teens, early 20-somethings are fickle, even in the early 2000s. They end up in the Hall of Mirrors because even after she dumped him by letter and ran away, he's still going to propose. I don't know. There were plenty of women in that kingdom from what I saw, but, I guess it wouldn't have kept moving the story forward. So they go through the Hall of Mirrors is beautiful. Like, that might have been the set they spent the most money on. I'm not really sure. So he goes through this. Yeah, it was beautiful, right? They go through this whole thing, and they're hugging, and midnight strikes, and she pulls the dagger out
from the back of her dress. Now, he told her she had to stab him at midnight, but couldn't she just have gotten rid of the dagger? The dagger wasn't cursed if someone had taken the dagger away, right?
That means that she had a back pocket.
What do you
in
guys
her
think
gown.
about how she...
Oh yeah.
Well,
Where'd
the
you get
gown
the
had
dagger?
pockets.
Yeah, they were far more practical back then. That was before they, tried to sell everyone purses, so they all got pockets back then, remember? So what did you think, Eric, about how she broke the curse, that she just had to like be strong or whatever bull crap they came up with?
So it was like all like you have to believe in yourself and blah 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 and love yourself and good message, but overall I'm just like there's really nothing to that because I'm pretty sure she's tried to do that before in the past. Now you're creating stakes because she fell in love with a man and that's why she's going to break it. That's an issue though. She could have done it by herself, which is what they're saying, but she didn't figure that out until she fell somebody she loved with. So I'm like, not the best. But I did like the shot in the Hall of Mirrors. I think it was beautiful.
Yeah.
One of the hardest scenes for them to shoot with camera positions and everything. But like overall, I'm like, eh. Oh, also, before I end, cue redeem sing mode, just so you know.
Oh no.
I do have to say, I had a thought when I was watching it that when everyone started singing together at the end, that's what Eric envisions when he redeems sing mode.
I truly do. I have a degree in musical theater. So all the time.
This is giving that scene in the Marvels where everyone has to sing to understand each other.
Also, we're pausing for my Katie, just so you know, during sing mode, all of us have to sing
too.
Everything. All right, back on track.
What were we talking about before? We were talking about
we're singing.
I can't sing.
We're singing about how she. What were we talking about?
We were talking about
how she broke her curse.
I will say that I had a nicer feeling about her curse break. I think that if it was anybody she was asked to murder, she would have broken the curse on her own. But I think love definitely like aided the story along.
But why didn't she break the curse by being strong enough not to tell her best friend to go away?
That is true. It's really hard to sing while talking.
I mean, we couldn't even really do it when we were singing about a musical one time, but we managed.
You're clear.
Has it been 3 minutes yet? Yes. Oh, hallelujah.
Done. Okay.
Okay, Katie, you can talk now.
It's a gift to everyone that I don't sing. I thought it was very strange. So, like, obviously, she just had to overcome the mental block that is this gift. But when she was about to get run over by the carriage, like seemingly ending her life, being trampled by the horse and carriage, that wasn't enough. Like, yeah, kind of going back what everybody, like what Eric, you were saying, just like it took the concept of true love for her to be like
dangling over a boiling cauldron.
True.
It just, yeah,
Twoo
love and marriage is really what breaks the curse.
Marriage.
I guess the way that I viewed it is like she was taking something away from somebody else. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Okay, I could see that. If I take it that perspective, okay, I could see it.
And so she couldn't it was like, I can't take the life of somebody. They're not deciding that. And maybe that was the catalyst. It was the deciding for somebody else. I don't know. But yeah, it's
Rachel,
problematic. It's problematic.
It is, but it was his life. I mean, it was her friend's feelings, but it was his life. You're right. No, you're not wrong. So he sees her in the mirror though with the knife, and he's like, "Oh, great, she's trying to kill me." So now she's arrested. She's thrown in the prison.
But thankfully, she has an elf friend who doesn't want to sing. He wants to be a lawyer. So he comes in to help her, and he sneaks in a whole cart full of trolls and giants and elves who want to help. Meanwhile, the uncle has a plan B, and he poisons the crown that's going to sit upon the prince's head at his coronation. The prince is obviously very sad. The fan club is super stoked, though, because, he's single still. So they have the coronation, and I love that they get, and I'm sure that they have this like 7-year-old boy carrying this poison crown, and so the uncle is obviously very careful with his plans. It's great. He's very cautious about who he's going to kill. So the coronation's coming along just as the uncle's planning with is on plan C by now, I'm sure. All chaos breaks loose. They have this thing they'd mentioned like once or twice called the Red Guard, which ended up being they rappel in and they're like royal guard ninjas all dressed in red. I don't know. That at that point the whole movie just descended into like this chaotic fight scene and yeah. Ella comes in and her beautiful dress went to tatters really quick. Like she was only in prison overnight. It wasn't even
What was she doing
I
in
don't
there?
even know what happened. I know.
Her
Was
hair
she
looks
rolling her
better.
crown on the stone floor? Yeah, it's true. It did.
She had a blowout in prison.
They go through this. She did. They go through this whole fight scene. There's swords. There's ninjas in red leather. They're standing there up at the front, arguing with the uncle. Char is standing next to Ella, and then the snake comes out and he's gonna bite Char on. This is my favorite scene. I don't know why. He's gonna bite him on the calf, and the snake gets away. I think Ella kicks him away, and one of the fan club girls points at him and he was gonna kill Char, and the poor snake dies by fan club because all of the fan girls jump on the snake to kill him because he was going to kill Char. But in a stroke of villainy and hubris, the uncle decides he's just going to crown himself with the poison crown, and he just falls over to the side dead, and everybody cheers, and now we can have the wedding of a lifetime, and they get married and they live happily ever after, and they sing "Don't Go Breaking My Heart" just like Kiki and Elton did, and it was beautiful. And it was, and Eric Idle ended it. And the funny part was I watched it on YouTube TV, and you know how he did all the rhyming, and then he said, and there's nothing more to say, those 2 words or whatever. It literally cut it to commercial right then, and it was a 7-second commercial, and then it just comes back and he goes, "The end." And I was like, are you kidding me right now?
You watched it on YouTube too.
Timing.
It did that to me too.
That's the only. Right, I was the dumbest timing. What did you guys think of the chaos that was the end of this movie?
It was
Eric,
just
what did you think?
I liked it.
Rachel, go for it. Or whoever.
Go Rachel. Go Rachel.
I was just gonna say it was just the cherry silliness on top of the silly cake.
Yeah.
Just all silliness, all hell breaks loose, and I mean, it is what it is. It needed a conclusion, and what a way to wrap up. Everybody goes to town on each other.
Correct. It gave me very Shrek fight vibes, what they were doing with that, which I loved. Also, like the whole thing is he's going to kill the prince and everything, and he puts the crown on and dies, but then he gets willed across stage with a bandage on his head. So you don't die, you become like just nothing.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. You can't actually kill a person because it's a kids movie.
It's PG-13.
Right.
So
exactly.
Katie, earlier you did do a pun, but unfortunately Cuba was not here, so he did not hear it. So he redeemed you to do a pun. Any of your choice, you can think on it.
It was an unintentional pun too.
I know.
I don't even remember what you said.
Yeah.
What was it?
It was, so we were talking about, I love the elves, and I was really happy that they didn't portray them in a certain way. And I didn't want to elaborate on that. But instead, my brain decided to say, but that's the long and the short of it.
That's right.
There you go, Q. You got it again.
There you go.
What I did. That's what I did.
Instant replay.
For those that are joining now, there you go.
Well, we are running out of time to talk about Ella Enchanted. It is a chaotic fantasy film. It is a fun movie. I still enjoy it. I don't know. Now that I think about it with a little bit of the nostalgia off of it, maybe I wouldn't give it a 4, but I would still give it a pretty high rating. I'd still be in Rachel's neighborhood with it. I think it's fun, it's chaotic. You don't have to think too hard about it, which is kind of why I like it, I think, because sometimes you just want to hang up your brain and watch some bright colors and silly things happen. But I really enjoyed our conversation tonight. It was a nice change from staring out the window at the fat snowflakes hitting the ground. Also,
It sounds pretty.
it's always enjoyable to talk movies. It's melting though so fast that it's like dirt and snow, so it's not that pretty. If it gets pretty, I'll take pictures while it's pretty real quick and post them. So but yeah, that is all the time we have today to talk about Ella Enchanted. Shout out to my guests Eric and Katie and Rachel. Katie, thank you so much for joining us for your first time. You did an awesome job, and thank you for filling our slot tonight. We appreciate it so much. Thank you all for tuning in the chat. I heard Tim is there, and Cue Ball, and Nom Talk, of course, is always with us because we couldn't do this without our magic person in the chair. Be sure to join our Discord to keep the conversation going, as well as subscribing to all platforms on Nom Talk Network. Eric, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me on all platforms except for X now, the Bird app, at Heartless7. That's HARTL, the number 3, SS7. And then here almost weekly.
Yeah, all the time. And Rachel, where can we find you?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, under Swendy Does Stuff. Supposed to be doing stuff and documenting it. I do it sometimes.
Excellent. And Katie, how about you?
You can find me on Instagram at basically think K Tidwell, but with no I, so it's K Tidwell. And catch me at your local con.
You'll find her somewhere near me, probably.
Yes.
And you can find me. You can find me on Instagram. It's do_as_Peggy Says, or on Letterboxd. It's just Peggy Says over there, and you can see my movie reviews. And I have been your host, Jennifer. Please join us again on Monday, where they will be discussing Godzilla. How do you even say this? Godzilla times Kong, Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire. All I know is the preview looks a little too much for me. That will be our next show on Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. I have been Jennifer, and you all have a nomorific day.